Hi, I'm Jacob Hornberger, Libertarian candidate for president. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is wrapping up his frantic multi-country tour of the Middle East in the hope of bringing a ceasefire to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Blinken's efforts are entirely laughable, and it's not surprising that nobody's paying any attention to him. Look, this is a government that is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. The U.S. government. I mean, Martin Luther King pointed this out many years ago, and no one denies that he was correct, that he still is correct. We live under the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. Now, there's a principle in the law called standing that precludes a person from bringing a lawsuit who the law says lacks a justiciable interest in the particular matter in controversy. Well, the same principle applies in the political arena. When a person lacks moral standing, he really has no business pontificating on any principle. Nobody's going to listen to him anyway. And the classic example of this is what Blinken is doing in the Middle East. He's talking about peace when he's working as the representative for the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. That's ridiculous. I mean, you couldn't find a better example of a lack of moral standing to be bringing a position. This is one of the reasons I am seeking the Libertarian Party presidential nomination. I announced this way back in February, and when I made my announcement for my candidacy, and you can see the video on my campaign website at jacobforliberty.com. We need to bring an end to the federal government's role as the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. We're talking about invasions, wars of aggression, occupations, sanctions, like the sanctions that killed hundreds of thousands of Iraqi children. Of course, we shouldn't forget Madeleine Albright's infamous statement. She was the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations when she said that the deaths of 500,000 Iraqi children from the sanctions was worth it. Okay, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of children here that were killed by the U.S. government. And of course, you've got sanctions against Venezuela and Iran and North Korea and other nations where they're targeting the civilian population with death, including children. You've got regime change operations, coups, inciting, provoking conflicts between other nations that bring a massive death toll, like Russia's invasion of Afghanistan or the Russia-Ukraine war, which was provoked by the Pentagon through operating through NATO and NATO expansionism toward Russia's border. I mean, the list goes on and on. We've got the drug war. Look how much death the drug war has brought, not just to American society, but especially to Mexican society and Latin American society. In fact, if you look at the sanctions and the drug war, it's one of the principal causes for the enormous wave of immigration into the United States from Latin America. And of course, what do they do with the immigrants? And what do Democrats and Republicans want to do? They want to deport these people back to their country of origin so they can get killed there. You've got America's socialist system of immigration controls and the police state that comes with it. Countless people who have died in the borderlands because of this socialist system and this police state. So there is no question that when it comes to killing, the federal government, and specifically the national security state, the Pentagon, the CIA, and the NSA, have made America number one. And that's nothing to scoff at. I mean, we lead the world in terms of violence, state-induced violence. So the best thing America could ever do is some serious soul-searching. That's what we need to do in this country. And we need to go back to founding principles. Now, we know there were some bad founding principles, slavery, tariffs, and other such things, but there were some good founding principles. And among the best founding principles was non-interventionism in the affairs of other countries, no foreign aid to foreign countries. People were free to keep everything they earned in this country and decide for themselves what they wanted to do with their own money, who they wanted to donate it to, whether they wanted to save it, spend it, whatever. And then possibly the most important is the restoration of our founding governmental system of a limited government republic. As longtime supporters of mine know, I've long said that the greatest mistake this country has ever made was to convert the federal government to a national security state from a limited government republic. And so if we do these things, we do some soul searching, we restore the good founding principles of this country, then we've got moral standing to talk about things like peace and prosperity and harmony and freedom. Because in that case, we're leading the world by example. I'm Jacob Hornberger, Libertarian candidate for president. My campaign website is jacobforliberty.com.